Another new feature was the audio clip mixer. Now in CS6 you had a track mixer where you could do things like change the levels of a track, or you could even record levels on a track, but they weren't on the track rather than on the clip. So first of all, normally people wouldn't see them, and secondly, if you moved a clip, the audio mix wouldn't go with it. So they introduced an audio clip mixer as well. And what this lets you do is adjust the levels of a clip. So I select a clip and then I can adjust the level up or down just using the slider. So let's just play that one back.
Put it into the program and edit it.
Really loud, really quiet. You can mute and solo from here as well. And you can also record keyframes. So basically you can start recording levels as you're playing. So if I click on this, which is looking at the clip on audio 1 and the one I've got selected, that's ready to record some keyframes. So what I do is start it playing and then start fiddling with the slider, changing the levels as I go. As soon as I stop, I've got a whole bunch of audio keyframes which are written in there. I say this is very similar to what you would do with the audio track mixer, but the difference is this is on the clip. So if I move that clip, they go with it. And also you never saw track keyframes unless you changed the display. If I went to this show keyframe thing and said show track keyframes, then you suddenly get to see the track keyframes. Whereas you're normally on clip keyframes. So if you use the old audio track mixer, you do this kind of mix and then you couldn't actually see visually anything that was telling you what was going on. Of course, now I've made a complete mess with all these keyframes and I'd like to get rid of them. Well, the nice thing about the clip keyframes, they don't just appear on the timeline, they also appear up in the effects window. So if I open up volume here, you can see I've got all these different keyframes, which are the ones which are created on the timeline. If I want to get rid of the lot, I can simply lasso them up here, press delete, they're all gone. I still use the track mixer. I never really use the automation, which is where you can write stuff as you're playing, but I do use, for example, the effects section where I can drop an audio effect on an entire track. So for example, for this tutorial, I like to even everything out a little bit, and rather than doing it per clip, what I do is I select the track that's got the audio on, click on here, and then choose one of these filters. Actually, I go to amplitude and compression and choose this one, multi-band compressor. You'll notice you've got two compressors there. There's one that's called Legacy and a regular one, and you'll see that's there in quite a few different things. There's some Legacy ones in some of the others as well. This is because what they've done in CC is they've added in all the filters from Audition into Premiere. So the Legacy is the old Premiere one, the new multi-band compressor is the better one that came from Audition. So there's a huge list of new audio effects which are basically better than they were with CS6. And I would throw a multi-band compressor on that, right click on it and say edit so I can get to some settings. I actually find that if I go for the broadcast preset, that probably works mostly for me, but I've got other presets and I can also adjust them myself. But I find that's quite a nice one for just smoothing out a timeline, particularly on something like this tutorial, taking the whole thing and then just evening out the voice a bit. So that's nice. A clip mixer, and B, lots more audio effects, which all came from Audition. And of course the audio effects don't have to be just used on a track, you can also go into the list of audio effects and they're all in here as well. Still doesn't have any decent noise reduction. The old spectral noise reduction effect is still there, but I still find I get much better noise reduction if I go off to Audition. And to get to Audition, assuming you've got it, the easiest way is to choose the clip, right click and say edit clip in Audition. Go into Audition, do Audition-y stuff, save it, and then it's automatically updated in Premiere. That, again, jolly useful feature. Just as is the option to send an entire edit through to Audition. Again, that was in CS6, but that's a lovely feature. You come up to the Edit tab, choose Edit in Audition, and you can either send a clip or the whole sequence. If you choose to send the whole sequence, then you have two options. What you used to do in CS6 was that you would make a reference DV piece of video, and then it would take out one video clip and save out all the individual bits of audio as different audio clips. So you keep the audio mix intact and you have a reference piece of video to edit with. That one's still there. They've added in this dynamic link as well. So that instead of making up a DV audio clip and then going into Audition and editing the sound to that, you actually just link through to the video on the timeline. If you change the video on the timeline in Premiere, it automatically changes the video on the timeline in Audition. So it's got the same kind of sequence link between Premiere and Audition, but it's got an enhanced one of using the dynamic link as well.